handling strategic and operational corporate HR roles. He has implemented a wide range of HR excellence initiatives into various HR functions and systems all across the world. Mr. Bharat has expertise in change management and he has implemented organization capabilities improvement OCI initiative based on PCMM framework. He is a lead internal auditor of various quality HR standards, to name few, like service management system standards, environmental management system, occupational health and safety assessment series, and many more. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
Now, I would like to introduce the another eminent personality and who is a chair session of today and moderator as well, Professor Dr. Amit Seth. Dr. Amit Seth is a director, FCBS, Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, and he is a head Manav Rachna Center for Socio-Economic Research, Consultancy and Training. Professor Amit Seth is known as a turnaround specialist. He has rich experience of more than 35 years in industry and academia. Professor Seth has worked in senior position in corporates like JK Tires, Relson India, Metro Continental Tires, and Siaram Porter Groups, and many more. His research areas include turnaround management, entrepreneurship, skill development, and he has published various papers in national and international journals in the area of this research. He is certified educator of entrepreneurship by Ministry of Skill Development, Government of India. He has trained corporate managers and executive through various MDPs and also conducted professional programs for second generation of entrepreneurs in association with Faridabad Industries Association and with Faridabad Small Scale Industries Association. He has also professed to management graduates in Auckland Institute of Studies in New Zealand. You are most welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to invite Ms. Saloni Kaul, Secretary, Faridabad Management Association, and she is a founder and CEO, ITS People and Director, and she is a Director, Publishing House England Limited for introducing FMA team. Over to you, ma'am.
So thank you so much. It is a privilege to be here today on behalf of FMA, that is Faridabad Management Association. As FMA, as probably most of you are aware, our vision is to actually create a vibrant community of management professionals, which is committed to promoting excellence in various management practices. So our main aim is to promote professional management, to encourage the use of modern management techniques and best practices. And we also want to provide a platform for all these professionals where they can interact with other professionals in the industry, be it in the government or even academia level. And we do this through multiple sessions, we do this through webinars, we do this through these panel discussions, similarly like the one we are having today. So our main aim is to actually facilitate this exchange of knowledge, this exchange of experience and ideas to enhance learning for everybody. So thank you so much for everyone who's here today, and my warm welcome to all the distinguished panelists for this discussion that we are holding today, which is on building capabilities during uncertain times. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot of things this afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Saloni Kaul. Thank you so very much to enlighten us about Faridabad FMA. Faridabad, I'm sorry, I'm admitting student as well. Now I would hand over for further session proceeding to our session chair, Mr. Amit Seth, sir. Dr. Amit Seth, sir. Sir, please over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tina. Good afternoon to all the dignitaries, my panel members. Am I audible? My voice is clear?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. And all the participants, those who have joined this panel discussion. And I can see the face, smiling face of Kusumdar Pandey also. Welcome, sir. In 1987, this concept of VUCA has emerged upon. That is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It, in spite of after 30 years, we remain in this situation only. We say we are in a global economy, global barriers are dismantled with new invent of new technologies, old products and services are getting wiped off, margins are eroding, cutthroat competitions are there, survival is becoming difficult, and beside that, we have to justify our shareholders for their contributions. Employees are aspiring many things. Customers are demanding. I think in these situations, the topic which we have taken, building capabilities in uncertain time, is a very valid point and will be eye-opener to the futures managers, those who are listening here, this session. So in this unpredictable future, it's very difficult to forecast anything. How much to produce, how much to sell. Our demand is varying, price fluctuation is taking place, and all this ultimately bottom line is getting affected. So we will be deliberating here. So in first phase, what we will do we will just find out what are the uncertainties in the particular domain area of each of the panel speaker, those who are here. And then afterwards, we will find out what sort of a capabilities we have built within time. And then we will go with the questions if the time permits. Okay, so let me start with Ms. Shagun, first with you, the lady in this panel list. So Ms. Shagun, can we see you? Yeah. You have worked in a various sectors. I think from hospitality to other FMCG and various other sectors. So what is your takeaway? Why these uncertainties are prevailing and what sort of uncertainties are there?
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Seth. A very, very pertinent question as we get into this discussion. And thank you, Ms. Siloni, from FMA. Thank you, V, from Core IR, to be able, so that I'm a part of this distinguished panel. So my take, Dr. Seth, would be that I think before I address, what's happening in my domain, my area, my business, I think there's a fundamental question that we have here is how do we as human beings, see the future? How when we as an individual or as an organization, how do we see the future? What do we do to see the future? Typically, what we do is we look at historical experiences, historical models, historical patterns to be able to form our opinions and aid us into decision making. Okay? So, the frameworks of, competition benchmarking, best practices, value chain, historical trends, historical patterns, all this come into, play while we are doing so. But what these actually do is, they actually give you a very static snapshot. Okay, what has happened in the past. Now, what the future holds, the future could be a continuation of the status quo, which is right now. The future could be completely different as well. The future could be a mix of both. Okay, so that's one aspect of how we look at the future, how we look at uncertainty. The second piece, which I want to bring the attention of people on the panel and also the students out here, is that how do we look at strategic planning, business planning, or even planning for your own self? Typically, if you go back to Dr. Seth and Dr. Veer and Mr. Verma, in 1960s and 70s, when you used to look at strategic planning, it was a 10-year business cycle. Slowly, as the decades moved, we moved into a 5-year business planning cycle. And then we moved to 3-year business planning cycle, 1-year business planning cycle. Nowadays, it's 90-day action plans, 90 days, it's quarter to quarter. So I'm saying that, there is a little counterintuitiveness when we look at the near term, and there is a counterintuitiveness when we look at historical experiences. As we experience this crisis, as we experience this pandemic, there were organizations, which were very, very decisive in the short term. They held back their liquidity, they held back, their costs, they really bolstered their revenues. But there were many, very, very few organizations who could see a silver lining and who could see that, look, what can I do for the long term? Can I change the way my business is heading? Can I look at the ways, I am relooking at my people, at my workforce, the kind of investments I am making? So I just to give you an example, Dr. Seth, I handle PMS, Performance Management System. And right when the pandemic hit us, since all our hotels, the entire tourism industry has been so badly hit, we were taken aback as to what is now PMS going to do? What will it appraise? Right? How will we appraise people when all our hotels are not functional, when restaurants are not functional, dining in is not happening? Right? So what could we do? Because the entire KPI framework has been shaken up. Similarly, for capability building, right before the pandemic, we had, we were working with international schools of education to deliver, capability building initiatives for our senior management team, middle management team. Suddenly, all that came to a halt. Okay, how do we look at it now? So I'm saying that it involved a lot of invoking of our underlying capabilities within our organization. Whether it meant, some of our sensing skills, robust sensing skills, it also invoked capabilities of, could we put down all our options available? Could we prioritize some of these options and execute them creatively? What about our workforce? Could we look at, building their capabilities, empowering them so that they're able to deliver in this new panorama? So I think this is how as a business or as someone in this has been the year so far. If I look at it, if I look back retrospectively, in a nutshell for me.
Thank you, Shagun. See, if we were talking about the technological innovations and also about the barriers being dismantled, but at the same time, if you look into it, changing government regime, changing new regulations are also bringing a lot of uncertainty. And COVID-19 is also there. While I'm talking to you, I'm diagnosed as a positive, only COVID positive. And in spite of, I got vaccinated about 20 days back. My second dose was taken in 20 days back, and still I got positive. So you never know what is there in future. Time is changing very fast. What was true, it's not true today. And what will happen tomorrow, you do not know. So with this, I will request Mr. Shubir. He has a vast of experience in telecom and power sector. I know they are also passing through different turmoils. So what do you have to say about it? What sort of uncertainties you are facing in these industries?
So thank you everyone. Lovely to be on this panel. On a lighter note, for the first time, being positive is being seen as negative. So, but I wish you a speedy recovery. I have also taken both the vaccination. So as Shagun said, that different industry has gone through different phases. So instead of like you see travel industry or hospitality industry or retail industry has gone through massive downturn in the last 1 year's time. But to be specific about the industry where I am in currently, like the distribution and manufacturing and power sector, there has been I will share about two challenges. One, what was the challenges we faced as a business? And second, what challenges we face as far as employees are concerned. So which will give a student perspective that how should they look for in case of any challenges which comes in future, because COVID-19 is one challenge, similar challenges might come in future. So COVID has probably shown us that how do we prepare ourselves for such challenges in future. So for our industry, basically the challenge for business was fivefold. So revenue declined. Though we are essential services, the percentage of revenue decline was not as much as was for any other industry, because power was used by everybody during this pandemic time also. So we were not affected, but there was certain revenue deficit which was there. The demand from, especially from commercial and industrial consumers, went down. So which has an impact on the working capital which we had, and we also had on the loan and the interest repayment which we had. Just to give you a perspective of at a all India level, there was a revenue, there was a flat 26% fall in India's energy consumption. And if you convert this into revenue terms, there was 130 billion per month revenue deficit, which was there, which is otherwise. So there was some impact on power sector also, not as much as it was in, say, hospitality sector or any other sector. So, but this was a good lesson for us. What we felt in our company and in this sector basis challenges for employees, I would segment this into 6 segments, the challenges which employee faced. First was the physical challenges in terms of there was a lot of insecurity about the income or the salary which they are getting. There was a lot of insecurity about the job, whether my job will be there or not there. Then the second was about the mental anxiety which people went through, both our employees and their families, the social anxiety which was there. And the fourth was the intellectual anxiety. How do I build on competencies? How do I prepare myself for future? And the sixth one was digital anxiety, like people were working overtime just to prove that work from home works and just to prove the trust which their managers or their company have reposed on them. So digital anxiety was the fourth thing which I thought there was a lot of challenges which we were facing. Just to give you a perspective, as we talk about, since we represent organized sector, we also have to think about unorganized sector. In India, only say about 5% of us work in organized sector, but about 95% people work in unorganized sector. So we need to think about them also. And as a company, we took care of them, for example, contract workforce. So we look at their challenges also. So contract workforce has a lot of challenges also. So I feel these are few challenges which we had in terms of business as far as employees are concerned.
Thank you, Mr. Shabir. So you have given two dimensions, one for an employee and one for the sector you are working upon. Mr. Veer Bharat is here with us, and he represents the manufacturing sector primarily. I think manufacturing sector is the one which is badly affected, especially in the COVID-19 situation. And during this implementation of CSD or monetization, I have a number of industrialist friends, and we discussed this. And this time was very bad for all of them, and number of uncertainties everyone was facing. And all those students, those who are there, maybe what they have been taught in management books, the life they may be facing gradually will be entirely different what has been taught. So Mr. Veer Bharat, we would like to know from your point of view, what sort of uncertainties been there in manufacturing sector, especially in automobile sector?
Yes, so it is really, you can say the pandemic hits us very badly. And we haven't, thought of that this kind of situation may come. So I'm audible to all of you?
Yeah.
So may come in future, and how to deal with this situation. So slowly we have prepared ourselves, and we have started working on various things to overcome those. However, market is now starting doing better, and we started recovering on a fast manner that in the previous time. So if you compare 2020 and the initial quarter and this last quarter, so we have done really well in terms of business. And I think this is because of that, the demand was stopped due to lockdown. So that way we have implemented so many initiatives, and this adversity we have turned into opportunity in terms of digitalization of our processes, in terms of the things those who are planned in a way that in digital way that we need to transform. So we have utilized this time to transform those things. And I would like to define this VUCA terms in a different way. So as far as I understand this, VUCA is the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. So to address these four terms, I used to term like agility, understanding, clarity, and vision. This is the answer of this VUCA. And if you talk about that, what does agility means and how it is respond to volatility. So if you are agile enough to shape yourself with the volatile market that is there, so you easily able to respond to the change. And in terms of HR, how HR can support to this agility, L&D is one area that you can think of how you can be more agile in learning and development things. So for example, we used to create TNA, TNI, and then we used to implement those things. But now things have changed. Until and unless you have very you can say spontaneous kind of support that you can give to your team. Suppose team is going with a new product in market. So have you prepared something which in day one everybody in your sales team is able to aware about the things, and not like in a quarterly plan or half yearly plan, as Sagun has also mentioned about that. Now 90 days is plan is we are making. Similarly, I'm not going in detail because of the I want to take more question. So uncertainty can be addressed by the understanding. So how you can understand the relationship between the employee and the employer, how well you understand the pulse of your employees. And if your employee is with you, you can sail through any uncertainty. So that is then complexity part. If you want to refer, so clarity is very important. How well you are, your communication is, how open you are communicating with your employees. If there is a problem, if there is a something that you foresee, share with your employees, discuss with them. They will come up with some good input for you, and they can help you to sail through these uncertainty situations. Knowledge management, organization management, these are the things that you can implement in for to address the complex environment. And then ambiguity is you can address with the vision. So how you can address with the vision? Ethical leadership is one which is very important. People should believe on you that what you are saying you will be doing it, and what vision that you have kept, that is really mean to you. It is not like that something has happened and then you start following something else, then people will not support you. Then cultural part, strategy part, all those things play very important role to address these ambiguous situations. So that's all for now.
Thank you, Virji. You have given a new perspective altogether.
Thank you.
Agility, understanding, clarity, and vision. Okay, you have given us some sort of a solution to the uncertainty. Thank you. If I go back 23rd March when this COVID was declared, and how we are facing a problems, uncertainty in education sector, just I would like to share it with you. That first challenge was that to teach to 12,000 students immediately on online mode. That was a challenge. Our faculty to get them abreast and to arrange for all sort of electronic devices were the challenge. But you will be surprised that within a day, we got able to train all the faculties, and the next day only we can started rolling out the online classes to all our not even a higher education student, all our 12 schools, primary schools are all basic level educations which are also started on online. But the challenge were there for the admission also this year. because most of the students were facing a financial constraints. The priority was first to find out the livelihoods and then go for the education. That was a secondary option for in their life. So across all India, it has been found that there is a drop of admission from 25 to 30% all across. And now when the situation is now well known to you, you never know what will happen. And we are again on that crossroad that when we left in March, now we are again on the same road. But now we have to leave this because we don't find it next coming few years, the problem is going to be resolved. So within whatever the limitations are there, you use the very right word, finding opportunities in adversities, it is the way out. So now, Shagun, I will come back to you again with your so much of experience in retail, FMCG and hospitality. You have to give us some solution. How you are building capabilities to face these uncertainties.
Yeah. Dr. Seth, thank you. And I think, you have very nicely expressed the challenges that you as your academic institution, has to face while this entire cycle has set in. Pre-pandemic, pandemic, then a bit of normalcy, then again going back to those crossroads. So while you were, indicating that, I was just thinking that even as we, we are a 100-year-old organization, and we've been working on-premise primarily. So remote working was very, very restrictive, when the pandemic hit. So within the last 1 year, as an organization, we have gone through almost 4 states. So the first state was how, we are working on-premise together. That was the first state. Then when the pandemic hit, it was how do we work from anywhere but together. Okay. And then off late, when the normalcy started building in, and the protocols came in of social distancing and various norms. The question was, how do we work on premise but independently? And however, we may have to go back to a state where we work, how we work from anywhere but independently. So I'm just saying that I think it is not just my organization. I think every organization, given their business context, will be, juggling between all these 4 states, given the context that is in. Okay, so I just thought I must mention this to you when you indicated, you expressed. But yes, getting back to, your question on capability building. So I was indicating that, we as an organization had laid, huge plans in the area of capability building last March. All that came to a standstill. And when we rejigged, we tried to reconfigure, given the context, there were many things which came to fore. And, for example, instance-based capability, which is, the concept of bringing everyone, in a workshop, in a physical workshop together, making them undergo training, that became like a foregone thing now. Could we look at remote learning, micro learning, all technology based? So that became the focus then, The second piece was, walk the walk by our business leaders, How do we bring employees to invest in continuous learning, in preparing a future self of themselves? Could we have our business leaders talk about their personal anecdotes, share their continuous learning journeys? Could we do that? We looked at that piece. Okay, and I think more importantly, we said that could we understand the role of business value and capability building? Okay, we always say that we from the industry is what I'm trying to represent, that there is a war of talent, there is a talent shortage, talent is a key differentiator. But how are we differentiating that talent in terms of capability building? Are some percentages of your revenues plowing back into your capability building investments to be able to differentiate your talent from the competition? Okay, so these are some of the areas we looked at when we looked at capability building in these tough times. Yeah.
Shagun, okay, this is you have given the HR perspective, but I would like to know more because hospitality is such a sector which is affected most.
Yes.
Because the people are not traveling, no tourism is taking place. So how your business capabilities were built upon to sustain a business? Because people now, rather than going to hotels, I could able to know they prefer homestays and all.
Yeah.
So how you address this business capabilities?
So very, very pertinent question, Dr. Seth, and I think it required an entire reconfiguration of our machinery and the way we think. So, for example, I represent luxury leisure and luxury business. So it's my international travelers bring about 80% of my revenues. With the curtailment of international airways, you can imagine the kind of impact it would have on the revenues of the business. Okay, so we had restaurants which were shut down, hotels which were shut down, restaurants which actually had no footfalls at all, no guests to be served. So you could imagine, a situation such as that, right? What did we do about that? A lot has been done. The entire, the business configuration. When I looked at, for example, a restaurant, we looked at ways to relook at our capability. That if we are number one in food and beverage production, how do we reach to our consumers who are now sitting at home? How do we can't bring back consumers to our restaurants, but how do we reach to them? Could we look at creative ways of reaching out to them? So we tied up with these aggregators such as Zomato and Swiggy to deliver our foods. For the first time, we had deliveries from 5-star hotels. We opened our laundry services. Hotel laundry services are never open to outside guests or outside consumers. For the first time, laundry services was being offered to anyone who could, who wanted to use it from the comforts of home. So I'm saying there were so many things we curated safety initiatives with medical experts and disinfectant, experts, medical professionals, to create safety, programs within our hotels. So guests who could come, they had a complete sight of at each and every step of touch and interaction. What is the kind of protocol that is being put in place for safety? So it was an overhaul of the complete business process, I would say. So you can imagine the kind of investments that would have gone in terms of directing our resources towards it.
Shagun, you have given a new insight altogether. Creativity and innovation, the way your organization could handle the situation, and that is what is required. And time to come, how the situation will be tomorrow, you never know, and we all have to abreast and find the ways of sustainability. Subir ji, आपका business तो बहुत ही अच्छा है, बिजली लेगा ही लेगा कोई. Phone, internet bandwidth is very much badly required. So I think you are a very safe player, but still would like to know how you have built capabilities with the time, a business as well as HR perspective.
Yeah, so probably I'll give a little long answer to this. Allow me some time. See, one of the biggest challenge for us was how do we keep our employees motivated? Because all medias and all of you were very, very appreciative of what doctors and medical staffs are doing. But more than them, to operate medical hospitals and those facilities, you need electricity. And we have large workforce, about 8,000 workforce. They used to go in the field and work in all the containment zone. So it was very important for us to keep motivating them. So that was the first assignment which we did successfully. Now, in terms of what are the different, how we keep our employees and what activity which we do, I would say that it was very important for us that how are we how are we treating our employees? People remember and respond in good times how they were treated during bad times. So the first thing what we did is we set up a Apex communication center where we used to communicate with each and every employee every alternate day by default, just to give them an impression that we are there with you. The second was that many initiative was done. So for example, one was that maximum communication at all levels. We addressed all the fear from the minds of people, including taking care of their emotions and their families' emotions. I strongly believe that data does not give you, as far as HR is concerned, data does not give you all the insights, but emotions do. So we need to involve the employees in doing all the practices which is being done. Some of the practices I would definitely like to share. For example, during this pandemic time, we realized that engagement is not about only employee engagement who are working in my company. It's also about how the family members we are able to engage, because and family member means the kids, the spouses, and their parents. And we were very happy that during this pandemic time, we launched many initiatives which involved these family members and provided them some sort of engagement, some sort of involvement in the culture of the organization. Some initiative, like there was a program series which we did called Muskurati Zindagi with Asis Vidyarthi. So it was a 6-episode web series in which our employee and their family members also acted.
Okay.
The next was my lockdown story, Symphony. There are many initiatives which we took and which involve the family members. Another thing which so that was about the engagement part, where we involve people apart from taking care of their safety and security of the employee. The next one, it was very important that how do we appreciate our employees. So we created a series called Gratitude Bites, in which we used to go to the field and capture what our employees are doing and circulate it with all our employees and family members. So that kind of social appreciation was there with all the people which was there. And plus we have a huge medical facility and we have series of doctors with us. So we were able to really take care of all the employees and their family members, including the hospitalization or those things which are there. Another element being in power sector was that we were able to convince the government of Delhi and government of India that we are equivalent to the frontline workers, and you'll be happy to know that we were the first company which were allowed to get COVID vaccine, and all our employees are vaccinated twice. Both the vaccination has been taken, and we were able to provide all these kind of support to our employees. In terms of learning, it was very important that how are we building our talent for future to meet the VUCA times or meet the business challenges which is there. It was very important that we use this time to invest in our people, and we launched certain programs. There is a program called Talent 100, where we are trying to build about 100 leaders who can take over next level of responsibility. Another initiative which we did was Power Talk, where we call people from different industry and they talk about what they are going through. For example, we talk people like Kunal Shah, who is founder of CRED, Mr. Sunil Mathur, who is CEO and MD of Siemens India, Dr. Joe Louis, who is innovation head for 3M in US. So this time we also took care of how do we build capability in future, how do we build leadership pipeline for future, and how do we prepare ourselves for future. And we did a lot of focus on innovation. We created a lot of products in the company, and you'll be happy to know that during this time we have filed for more than 10 patents and filed for more than about 15 IP rights in the company. So these are some of the initiatives which we took, because we believe that during this time it is very important that we not only focus on the business continuity part, but we also use this time to prepare our employees so that it fulfills their intellectual need for the future.
Thank you, Subirji. It was altogether a different dimensions you gave it. The way you have told about the Muskurate Zindagi, getting emotionally connect with the employees, finding out, building capacities for the future leaders, all these are invoking the mindsets of the futures managers, those who are listening, that whether time is bad or good, you have to keep innovating and you have to find the new ways to find the path. Thank you very much, sir. With this, I request Mr. Veer Bharat to enlighten us with his wisdom of stories.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Amit. And I'm very happy to listen the view of Subir sir and Sabun. And I would like to add that, this is the first time that we have heard the name of WFH, what is work from home. And that was the most challenging part of us, because we have, as being into manufacturing, we haven't, worked. We have heard that many organizations are doing, but we haven't. So the first challenge was to enable our people to start working from home. So we have implemented you can say policies to set up the work from home setup in their homes. We have given budget to all the people. Then we have allowed to enable them with the connectivity and other facilities. So those are the things that is one challenge. Then second challenge that we faced is the engagement. So in this situation, this is the first time that we are working in as a remote everybody, and today I'm also working from home. So engaging people is the most challenging thing that we faced. So we have come up with many initiatives like Coffee with MD. We have implemented various online sessions that enable people to come together. We have implemented a very good thing which is called virtual suggestion box. So earlier we used to have suggestion box where you can put your suggestions, but during this lockdown, everybody is working from home. So how you will give your suggestion to the company? So that is the anonymous link that we have published. Anybody can put their suggestions in that link, and we used to publish those suggestions, that basis on these suggestions what we have done. So this is the quarterly activity that we have started. We have focused on digital learning. So we have come up with so many e-learning programs for our employees with respect to soft skills. Then we have also started knowledge sharing session. Today also the machine learning and AI based knowledge session is going on. So that way, it help us to engage our people. Then at the organization level, we have utilized this time to reorganize ourselves to address the coming time, like you can say supply chain management, things that we have worked upon, reorganizations, that how teams will move further, because during work day operations we are not able to actually work on these things. So we have started and we are utilizing this time to address that how we will move in future. So that way I said in my first session also that we have using this adversity as looking as opportunity.
Thank you, Veerji. Your takeaway was engagement, involvement, and new learning with the time. This is the way you could find out the way for building capacities. I did my PhD in turnaround management. That was on during when more globalization was taking place and multinational companies were entering into India and cutthroat competition was emerging upon. Then I thought, let me take this study, why the companies go into a losses. And I took 10 companies cases and tried 2 studies. Companies were Gillette India, Tata Motors, or Thermax India, I think all Philips India, all these big organizations in once of their life journey went into a losses. And how they address these uncertainties and losses. That is what I tried to find out of. Of course, it will not be possible within this lesser time to deliberate more, but my takeaway for building capabilities will be working on few things. Of course, number of organizations may be working. Thin and lean operations, that is the need of the hour, with minimum of resources, how they can find best utility. Second is, as all three of you have deliberated, Shagunji and Subirji and Bharatji, find out the creativity and innovative way of handling the situation. Third, supply chain and logistics plays a vital role nowadays. How we can eliminate mediators, how we can reduce the cost, how we can be more efficient in delivering our product or services. Then frugal engineering, with whatever the resources we have, how we can minimize it, what things we can eliminate in the process. So this is the way we have to find the building the capabilities and the productivity. How within whatever the resources we have, how we can improve the labor productivity or skills manpower productivity. Restructuring, maybe restructuring of everything, restructuring of finance. If we are borrowing more from the bank, interest is more. So let us curtail that. Find out the way we can sell off our non-performing assets, plus that money back to our banks so that the interest portion should be less. Restructuring of HR, restructuring of marketing activities, all restructuring of production activities is also required. Then which very much is required, that as what Shagun was talking about, that there was a time when 5-year strategies to be made, then 3 years, then now it is a 90 days. So first we have to unlearn what we have learned at earlier and then go for the new learning. That is because it's observed that most of the time, whereby I observed the why company went and go for a losses, because one of the reason which I could able to find, that the top person, the one who is sitting at the highest of the position, he is working in his own style of 30 years or 35 years of experience. But with the time, the changing dimensions, new competitiveness is emerging upon. You have to find out a new mindset altogether, the new way to express this. In some cases, whereby the companies took the turnaround, they find out the new CEO also, or maybe they brought a person from within the organization, got them equipped and trained for the situation. Then what is required? You have to train. Shagun was talking about the people are now involved in multitasking. So what is required? You have to train the people to other areas also. Sometimes one person has to do a multiple task. So this is the way we can build capabilities. And with my experience in the industry, what I observe, we remain in our silos. We don't generally sit together to find out the solutions for the problem. It is a time when all the brains of the institution has to sit down, have to work collaboratively, and interdisciplinary team what is required. I will narrate you one incident. When Tata Motors went into a losses, so they picked 8 to 9 young professionals from within the organizations, and they were working in a different fields. And then the task was given to them by the MD that these are the problems. We have gone into a 500 crore loss, and find out the way and give us some strategies how we can rework upon. And after, say, day-night working, they could find out some solution. They gave us some strategies on which the company worked upon, and they could able to turn around. So interdisciplinary team working together, collaborative approach is a need of our. Then next is strategic thinker, a visionary. That is what important, and you should be execution master. Most of the time are unable to down the line. So you have to thinker. With this, I award from each panelist. We could able to deliberate. Now we will make the session open for the question answers. Tina and Arkaja, it's over to you and to the students and those who are participants if they have any questions and queries.
Thank you so much, Amit sir. the entire discussion was really very enlightening, and I'm sure the participants would be ready with a lot of new questions because almost all new avenues were explored today. And in fact, the entire session actually led to all a new perspective towards the pandemic duration. Like after this duration, during this uncertainties, how the companies have overcome and how new strategies are being formulated. This has actually given a new, we can say that new area to think upon it. So I would like to invite the participants to please ask any queries and questions, and please take this as an opportunity to interact with our esteemed panelists. Bhumika Sharma. So she is having one question. Bhumika, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Sir, my question is related to career guidance. Like at this age, most of us have very confusing doubt that what should we opt after graduation. Like we should pursue the higher education or we should gain job experience. Like what is the demand of the industry?
Okay, do you have a question with any specific panelist or it is open to all?
Sir, open to all.
Yeah, so I would
Okay.
like to take up this.
Okay.
And Bhumika, I think the first thing that you can do is you do the SWOT analysis. Okay, what is your strength, what is your weakness, what opportunity that is available, and what are the threats related to that opportunity that you can do. Second is that don't go with what is you can say at boom or what attract you, but better to do what you like. Then only you will go far with your in your career heights. If you are going with someone saying that it is a good field and then you are trying to utilize that, then it is not going to work for you. So better to take know your strength and then pursue that what is in with your strength, what is available opportunity or what is available career that you can follow.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Bhumika, I hope your question has been answered. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Swati Vach. She has also raised her hand to ask something.
Firstly, I would like to thank the organizers. It was a really wonderful session that was organized. When Shagun ma'am was talking about this food industry, beverage industry, I just remembered a news headline that came around when Maharashtra declared a lockdown. It said it was a last nail in the coffin. So, okay, although water flows around the obstacles, so what will make business capable of adapting this way, ma'am? Because already we know how I will be keeping my eye on the big picture when this type of negativity is already there and people are suffering lot of losses. I just wanted to know about that.
Yeah. So, I think the business that I represent is actually a case in question, and you rightly pointed out that. So, we are actually badly hit, but what we actually did was, we thought of the unthinkables, is how I would like to put it, which meant that, we did a lot of scenario planning. When you look at the scenario planning, we actually went down and say what worst can happen, So worst can happen is probably your 50% of your revenues get wiped out, 45% of your revenues get wiped out, right? So when this happens, then what will be our possible action planning? Let's say this is a scenario. So when we as a business were doing this kind of scenario planning, Swati, it made everyone's mind open to many possibilities, which could happen. And it also made those possibilities less intimidating. We were less fearful of those possibilities also. So, and now I must tell you that in the last, from October to March, So usually in a hotel industry, October to March is the peak season time. This is where we make most of our revenues, because this is the travel time, leisure time. All our hotels were running with almost full occupancies, because we looked at a domestic market, and they were running, and that is how this entire scenario planning helped us achieve that. It opened us to a range of possibilities we could look at. It opened up us to a range of offerings that we could offer, a new market, new consumer, because everyone brainstormed towards that. So I would like to leave it there.
Before any other questions come, I request Subirji, you have to leave by 12:35 with your some other engagement. So kindly give some guidance and tips to our future managers in this situation, what they should do.
See, there are a few things which I would say. One is that people need to not believe in the best practices. So, I mean, there are certain things which I have realized during this time, that many people are following best practices, that this is working for good. So I have just 3 advice for future managers. Apart from what you learn from all HR heads, which you can see on social media on different platforms, but based on my experience, I'll share 3 things which every future HR managers need to do. One is, don't be in a mad rush after best practices. What is good for a Google or a Facebook may not good for your industry. So you have to see what industry you are in, what is the culture your organization has, what kind of people you have, whether you have youngsters, you have middle ages, or you have senior people, what kind of demographics you have in the organization. And based on that, you need to have any HR practices or other practices. So that is one. Second is, be innovative. During this time or any time, to experiment more, launch more programs. Ask the employees that what is the program they are liking, they are not liking. Do not try to become God. Generally, what happens, HR launches 50, 60 programs, but we forget to ask from the employee that which are the program they are appreciating, which are the program they want us to continue, and which are the program they want us to stop. So stop, continue, and new programs. So be innovative, launch more programs. And the third and the final one is the 3A. Every employee in the organization or whichever segment, whether you are HR or you are a marketing manager or you are a finance manager, you would be dealing with employees. So keep in mind to deal with 3 things. Every employee come to workforce with his hand through which his work. Through the second is his head to think, and third is also his heart to feel. Every employee is an emotional being. He is not a robot. He's not a number. So please touch the heart, which we focus on productivity, and all of us do a lot of initiative to improve the productivity. But we forget to touch somewhere the head part and the heart part of the employee. So create, connect, create impact on the employee. Trust me, it is the smallest of the gesture which creates the largest impact, and not any PMS process in the organization. So I would say these are 3 things based on my experience every budding manager should keep in mind if they want to be an influencer, if they want to be an effective manager.
Thank you, Subirji.
Thank you, Subir. Thank you very much for coming and sparing.
Thank you very much. It was lovely to be on this forum. I have to leave because of a urgent engagement. Thank you, Sagun. Thank you, Tina, Swati, Mr. Pandey, Mr. Seth, Ms. Garg, everyone. Thank you very much, all the students. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Arun Pandey, he also raised his hand to ask some question. Arun Pandey?
I think he has to unmute himself for.
Yes. I think he's not able to hear us. Mr. Anand Pandey. So meanwhile, I also have one small question from you. Can I take a privilege to ask one question?
Okay, he's finding himself to unmute. Mr. Pandey, better write down on a chat box and we will give a reply to your query if you are not able to unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead, Arkaja.
Okay, sir, as we all know that during this uncertainties, I think the small scale industries or small businesses which were being doing their businesses at slow scale, they have been hit very badly. So even now, when the things are slowly and gradually coming back, like as Shagun ma'am has already shared with us that hospitality industry was very badly hit, but then now it is also coming online by adopting very different way of strategies to come back. So what is your suggestion for such industries, for such business players, how they can come back, how they can apply with new strategies, what all strategies they can explore? And secondly, if there are new entrepreneurs who want to set up the business, is it the right time to get into the line, or it is convenient for, I mean, it is suggestive for them to get into employment only?
So, to whom you are asking this question?
Sir, I would request, I mean, all the panelists, they can answer.
Okay, Shagun and Veerji, would you like to answer? Or should I take it up?
Yeah, Shagun, would you like to take up?
Okay, I've so yeah, Arkaja, I think there is no one specific answer to this question. It can't be because if I'll just give you a small perspective. I know of professionals who were doing. I am right now only talking about professionals. I'll come to businesses a little later on. So I know of professionals who who were last year working and doing pretty well in their careers, and were doing work from home, doing phenomenally well. But this pandemic gave them a chance to think back and look at what they could probably do much better. What their interests actually lied, and they actually opted out of this kind of a race. Yet there were others who actually started their own business ventures, during this time. They saw a lot of opportunity within this crisis. I know of people who ventured into storage businesses, right? And they did phenomenally well within the last year. Something, the kind of turnaround, the kind of businesses which they, which the revenues that they generated, they couldn't have done that in a non-crisis year. Okay, so I think similar thing holds true for businesses also. I think in every crisis there has to be a silver lining. The opportunity has to be there. Opportunity for change and for capability has to be there in every organization. If you pick up any industry, any business, if you deep dive, these opportunities will emerge if there is a there is a way in which options are being generated. So there is no dearth of that. It is not that there is a crisis, there's uncertain time, and everything comes to a halt. Okay, maybe the business was having a core strategy. Now they need to have a contingent strategy. They need to have a plan B. Okay, and in fact, this plan A and plan B needs to go in together, right? Probably there were products. Let's say a company was having products in one market. Now they need to have a new market, or probably a new product in the same market. So there are multiple opportunities which organizations can actually explore if they need to do a thing through this.
Arkaja, I would like to put forth, you must have gone through the SWOT analysis. सबने SWOT analysis पढ़ी हुई है. But if you look to the 4 quadrants, then if the opportunities are there and strength is there, you have to go for an aggressive strategy. When there is opportunities are more, but there are internal weaknesses are there, then you have to go for a turnaround strategy. And when the market is having a threat, and the same time you have also some internal weaknesses, it is a time to go for the defensive strategy. You have to wait for some time, get the things in order, do some cost-cutting exercise, go for more creativity and innovation, how you can redeploy your existing resources to find out the things going on, keep moving, and then you will find the solution after some time. Your second question was whether it is the right time for the people to enter into a business. See, there are always a different type of opportunities are there. As you know that I had entrepreneurship cell of Manav Rachna. Here you will find number of students have come out with some such a unique idea. One with a solar alternative. Second has come out with a website which can compare if you are looking for some mobile purchase, they will compare the pricing of the product. From there, you can order directly without searching more, or less price ventilators being started. Number of avenues. Some people have started into a medical business, whereby sitting at home, how you can get a sort of a treatment, whether it is nurses, whether it is doctor counseling, all sort of a treatment, how it can be possible. So there can be a number of opportunities when I have to find out which opportunity can be sustainable.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, Shagun ma'am. Saloni ma'am is also, I would like to invite her to speak.
Thank you so much. So basically, I wanted to add on to the question around entrepreneurship. And often, when I've been addressing college students, both graduate and postgraduate, this one question around should we go in for a job or should we, take up entrepreneurship inevitably comes up. And sometimes, you believe that you already in your head, like we all talked about, what is it that we're good at, or we've done our SWOT. So we understand what our real passion or our real skills lie. So if we have that understanding and we know that this is the area in which I want to go, the next question you want to ask is, and here is where I think my answer comes in, that if you want to gain experience and get a better understanding of what the industry is offering, but you're very clear as to your domain, your area of interest, and especially the skills and the strengths that you have, then go for the job. There, learn on the job, you get a better understanding. And if you really want to then go out and, take a hit or actually go out and take up your, create your own entrepreneurship journey, then you must exactly be able to answer at least a couple of questions like, what is the exact problem that you're trying to solve? Because entrepreneurship, while it may, sound very fancy, but at the end of the day, you're there to solve a certain problem for a certain client or a customer segment. So who is that customer for whom you're solving this problem? And who else is also solving the same problem? Probably you have come out something which is very innovative and very unique. So probably nobody else is doing that. But if you are the only one doing it, then why should somebody pay you and not go for something else? So in your own head, you should be able to answer at least these 4 questions: that what problems are you solving, for whom are you solving these problems, and who else is actually solving the same problem, or how are they doing it, and what is your uniqueness, what is your value proposition if you are at all looking at entrepreneurship, and then why should somebody pay you for that? Sometimes we are so much in love with our own idea that we feel this is best and this is definitely this will like rock, ye bahut chalega. But eventually we want to understand that will somebody pay you for it. So those are some thoughts I would like to leave with the students who are interested to look at should we go for a job or should we go for entrepreneurship. As far as I am concerned, I joined my family business, so I had a business experience. Then I went into my job and I started to work for several big, large national, international organizations. And then I did a complete loop. I came back and started my own consulting. So everybody has their own journey. You need to decide what works best for you. So thank you.
Arkaja, you have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Saloni ma'am, for valuable thoughts you have shared with all the students and with us. Do we have some more queries from the participants?
Okay, meanwhile, till you are finding out some more questions are there, I will like to just add on to what Saloni is talking about. I was going through the statement of chief executive, Mr. Sundar Pichai of Google, he says that the students, like in India, where more pressure is there in academics, he says that does not matter to you are from the best of the elite institute. What matters to be a successful in your life is that you should follow your passion. I think that what Veer Bharatji was also talking about. And if you follow your passion, your interest area, and try to go to the path where is less people are going. Maybe it is risky, but your chances of success will be much better to try to find out, take risk in your life, follow your passion. That should be the recipe. And if there is no question, Arkaja, I will request Shagun ma'am and Veer Bharatji to give the tips today for students, those who are listening you, and guide them for their future endeavors. Yeah, Arkaja, over to you.
Yes, sir.
I have one query here.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt in between. Yeah, many of the time students ask because there are plenty of opportunities available for soft skills. Everybody knows soft skills are required for enhancement of career, but what exactly should we advise to the students? So what kind of soft skills are desired in the industry now time? Because the pandemic situation has changed entirely the situation. So what should we advise at this point of time to our students, to what kind of skills they should opt to merge into the industry to understand better the industry culture?
Tina, to whom you are asking question?
Every one of you.
Okay, Veerji, would you like to give a
I'd
reply?
like to take up. So I'd like to, because it's coming from on behalf of a student. So I'd like to help them to understand and foresee that what kind of workforce is going to be in future. Okay. So the way that we are working today is not going to remain same after 10 years or maybe 15 years down the time. Gig economy is coming up. People will hire you for this specific job, and you will be working for various work together maybe. And like Ola, Uber, that we all know that the ratings that you receive from the customers, basis on that you will get the next ride. So the drivers, those who have better ratings, they used to get more rides than the others. Similarly is going to happen with the professionals also, that basis on the ratings that is given by your customers, you will be hired for. So that way you need to think that earlier we used to prepare for some interview, and we used to pass or crack that interview and get the job, and then the remaining thing that happen is to sustain the job or to move into the career ladder. But in coming time, in future of work, that we foresee is that with the gig economy, company will hire you for your skills. That means that you have to keep upgrading yourself to be remain into the system. That is one. Second skill that I foresee is the analytical skills. So like today, nobody asks you that you know Office or not. So tomorrow maybe once you will go and appear for the interview, people will expect you that you have analytical skills. When you will come to represent anything, you should come with some analysis of your data or things that is given to you. And third, that is forever, is communication skills. Because if you able to communicate your idea well, if you able to communicate your perspective well, then it is more easy for you to sell your idea. So these three things I would say. Thank you.
Yeah. And I would just like to add to Veer, who has beautifully put this up. Besides that, I think the most important thing will be your attitude, and I'll tell you why. Because as Dr. Seth had also said that during such crisis time, there's obviously a crunch of resources. Businesses would want to perform with less kind of resources, whether it's manpower or any other resources. The fungibility of these resources to move from one trade to another that needs to be very high. So for example, when we at hotels were having a crisis in terms of liquidity, in terms of revenues and all, we looked at moving people from front office operations to F&B service to front office, housekeeping to front office. So the attitude of people played a very, very key role. They said, some of them said, why should we do it? That's not our role, But the people who moved in, they had the right set of attitude. They learned it within a few months. They picked it up and they were there to perform, and they saved their jobs as well. So I think that will also be a very key differentiator for all of you.
So Arpaja, I don't think there is any question.
Yes, sir. There are no more questions.
Okay, so Shagun and Virji, last takeaway from your side, and then we'll sum up the session. To start with,
Yeah. So now I think I would just remind all of you students that in 2008 there was a global financial crisis that happened, and the batch, the MBA batch, or the students who passed out that year and the year after that, were in a similar situation like most of you right now. Okay, and there was a little survey done whereby all these students who passed out from some of these elite schools of the world during those years, they were gotten in touch with, and they were asked, what happened to you after 2008? Okay, so obviously at the time of 2008, they had their dream jobs in investment banks, in the banking industry, financial industry, and all their dreams were shattered. Okay, because this crisis happened and suddenly everything went kaput. So what had happened to them? And they actually said that, we moved to different sectors. We didn't get our dream jobs, but we took up jobs. What we did was that in those jobs, we practiced new skills. We made ourselves, capable for a future us where we envisage ourselves. We continuously skilled, reskilled, upgraded ourselves in those 2 to 3 years. And then we moved our sectors to the kind of sectors we wanted. Okay. So I think the onus, there will be a lot of pressure on students this year and in the next year. And I think you must remember the batch of 2008. While taking, so don't get, deterred by things which are happening right now. I think it will make a more resilient you, you would be much more a special batch. People would actually think back and talk about your batch and give examples of your batch. I would just leave it at that. Thanks.
Again, sorry. Please go ahead, sir.
Before you should take it up, I would also take this further, because in the time of crisis, of course, the jobs are limited, and those it is available for the best of the people. So don't get disheartened. It is a time, as what Shagun is talking about, to reskill, upgrade yourself, go for a value addition, and if possible, try your own ventures, go for your own startups, because there are plenty of ample opportunities from Government of India within the universities. The funding available, the grants available to you are enormous. So at least during this time, if you have some bright ideas, you can start working on. There is no harm even if you get a job, but the idea on which you have worked will always pay you. With this, I request now Mr. V.
So Dr. Amit, actually, exactly, I was, about to say the same thing. And, don't limit yourself that what is, the opportunity that is available only. Yes, always you have to look into it, but try to find out other ways also. There are, various ways, as sir also mentioned about the, entrepreneurship or startup. Try to think on those areas also. Even if you do not succeed, for example, but whatever you will get, it is better than you are sitting idle. So it will definitely going to add value to your skill set. When we used to go to campus and take interviews, we asked them that, during your academics, what additional or new thing that you have done. So many students, they used to come with their ideas that we have implemented this. Then we ask about the the financial model, that how you sustain it, and in this way, what we used to understand is that the understanding of business processes is there or not. So apart from the skills or the technical skills that person has, or soft skills that person has, if the person has better business understanding, then it is very easy for us to get those people on board. So that way, it is going to definitely help you. Again, I will repeat, the SWOT will definitely help you to know about your strength and then try to follow that. I have many examples. A recent example was that I was taking interview at one of the university in Dehradun, and the student said that I want to follow, and my passion is to follow in cyber security. So I said that, why don't you follow, then why you are sitting in this interview and giving this interview? He said that, sir, I want to try, and that I want to check myself. So I said him that you should utilize this time to sharpen your skills and get the right job and apply for it. Don't waste your time. So he is in touch with me right now also. He got the job in cyber security and he followed my advice. So that way, it definitely help you. If you have passion, follow it. You will be succeeded one day. Thank you.
Yeah, Arkaja, over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. The entire session was really very enlightening, and as I have already said, we actually got all new avenues to think about it, to explore, and participants were also very happy. They were quite excited after understanding all those new avenues. And I'm sure that they would definitely go through such avenues, and they will also be doing their SWOT analysis before entering into the industry. And now I would like to request Mr. V. Tyagarajan. He is Executive Director, FMA, former head CRC APG Satya University, Director CRC DAV Institute of Management, and NIAM Institute of Applied Management. He has also worked as a senior finance professional with Escorts for 25 years. I would like to invite him for a vote of thanks.
To unmute your mic. Tyagarajan ji, unmute yourself.
Thank you. Very good afternoon, dear panelists, faculties, students, and industry participants. And I really agree with Shagun. Before proposing a vote of thanks, I really agree with Shagun that 2008, it is a year to remember, because my daughter was also part of it. She passed out engineering in 2008, and she was placed in the campus, through campus in iGates Patni. And she got her appointment after 1.5 years, but she didn't waste time. She took up soft skill training in DAV Institute of Management, and during that period, she engaged herself. And then she joined Patni, and now she is a startup entrepreneur in New York.
Good.
She didn't waste time. She learned soft skills, and she became a soft skill. She was training, she was a graduate, she was training MBA students. It gives me a great...
Wonderful to know.
Huh?
Wonderful to know, Mr. Tyagarajan.
You should, I'm telling the students, engage during that period. Don't wait for any opportunity.
Yes.
Learn new skills. It gives me a great opportunity and pleasure to propose a vote of thanks. I join my president, Mr. Abhay Kapoor, and secretary, Ms. Saloni Kaul, to give a vote of thanks. First and the foremost, I thank the distinguished speakers, Ms. Shagun Jaina, Mr. Subir Verma, and Veer Bharat, for giving us a great learning session full of knowledge. It has really enriched the knowledge of the students. I also express my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Ajay Seth for giving us the opportunity, and he also moderated very well. And thanks to Mr. Veer Bharat, core HRIR, for partnering with us. And he spoke very well. And also thanks to Professor Arkaja and Tina for being a very great host. And also thanks to all the students, faculties, and industry participants. It was really a very memorable session. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
And we adhere to time also, Tyagarajan ji. Exactly, it is 2 o'clock. We are finishing it.
Correct, correct. Well done.
So,
It's wonderful to note.
Wonderful. We should have more sessions like this in future.
Thank you, everyone, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
And time to see, we look forward that
Thank you, Dr.
Farida chapter of IMA should be there in our campus. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Should we leave?
Thank you so much. And we are now we have ended the session, so we can end the session.
Thank you, students, for patient listening and participating.
Thank you,
can leave
ma'am.
the session. Everybody.